Hi, my name is Julie Sloss, and I am the Program Manager for IT Resilience in University IT. I want to share the approach we have taken in the BCDR space over the last several years. First, let's define a few things. Business continuity is an organization's ability to ensure that operations and core business functions are not severely impacted by a disaster or unplanned incident that causes a service disruption. Disaster recovery is an organization's method of regaining access and functionality to its IT infrastructure after a disaster. Now, this could be an event like an earthquake, a cyber attack, or even business disruptions related to COVID. And DR is an aspect of business continuity. Let's focus on two key performance indicators, RPO and RTO. These objectives are represented as a number and they're measured in time. RPO stands for Recovery Point Objective. How much data can you afford to lose? This is the time between the last backup and when the disaster hits. RTO stands for Recovery Time Objective. What is the acceptable amount of downtime post-disaster? Now you'll notice I have the word investment highlighted in green, and that's because if the business requires these objectives and the system is designed is not capable of meeting them, an infrastructure investment is needed to allow for this high level of resiliency. Let's take a look at an IT disaster timeline. The disaster event is represented appropriately by a ball of flames, and RPO, which is the data loss tolerance, lives between the last backup and the event. RTO, which is the recovery time allowance, begins immediately at the point of the event and ends when IT resources are restored. Now, how do we assess that the systems are capable of meeting their restoration objectives? Well, our team created a rubric and process to assess the resiliency of UIT's most critical systems and identify gaps between the restoration expectations of a service and the service capabilities. Through this process, we analyze service data including RPO and RTO, service criticality level, consumer profile, documentation, and then infrastructure elements such as virtualization, redundancy, backup, and availability of non-production environments. Once gaps are identified, we guide technical operation owners through creating a remediation plan. These plans look at specific resiliency categories. So does the service need a DR plan? Does there need to be a non-production environment? Or maybe should the cadence of backups increase? The assessment approach is the foundation because you have to know your system capabilities and your business requirements in order to create a plan to make those two things align. One of the most fundamental improvements to IT resilience is the creation of a formal disaster recovery plan. We have developed templates for various system deployment types, so on-prem, cloud, hybrid, and the purpose of the plan is to allow anyone to pick it up and know what skills, what teams, what access, what equipment, and what procedures are required to restore that system in the most expedient way possible. Another tool is the tabletop exercise. So we look at the content of the criticality assessment, DR plans, system documentation. We'll even look at news articles and white papers to create scenarios that are blindly presented to the service team for them to walk through with the aim of system restoration. These are conversational and collaborative discussions, and they always prove beneficial. We also facilitate major incident process walkthroughs so that service teams and our IT Operations Center, ITOC, are able to discuss what types of service impacts would cause or be considered for an outage and how the communications flow. These discussions increase the readiness of ITOC, which is critical to our restoration effort, and provide the service team with a greater understanding of how an outage will be supported. Finally, we are working on service criticality guidelines that will help service owners determine which service criticality level their service is best suited for. The guidelines will incorporate support and infrastructure elements of our criticality assessment, as well as the restoration communications of the major incident process. In the coming year, these tools will become embedded components of service management and service readiness processes, and we will look to transition flavors of these tools for self-service consumption to the Stanford IT community, which is very exciting. Please reach out to me if you are interested in any of these tools or would like consulting for your IT resilience plans. Thank you so much for your time, and be resilient.